we should make a start. Welcome everyone to our fourth and final South of England Technical Forum, and thank you ever so much for joining us. I just have a few housekeeping points before we get going. First and foremost, we are recording this evening, so it will be available later for anybody that wants to watch again or isn't able to make it in person. Secondly, I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Fram Farmers, who have been fairly instrumental in promoting, and hopefully one or two of you found out about this via their newsletter and other bits and pieces. And then, yeah, I think probably I should move on to introducing our speakers who have kindly volunteered to help us out this evening. So a little bit about questions first of all. So I imagine one or two of you will have some questions on the way through our presentations. If you have any questions, please do feel free to chime in and mention them on the way through. However, if not, then we will have some time at the end for questions. So also feel free to save them up to the end for a bit of discussion. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers this evening. We've got Alex Payne joining us, who is the CEO of Landex, who will speak to us first. And then we're also joined by Jeremy Kerswell, who is the principal of Plumpton College. So thanks ever so much, guys, for joining us. And I'll pass over to you, Alex.
Pleasure. No, thank you very much, Chris. So good evening, everyone. And yes, thank you for inviting us this evening. I'll just give you a little bit of a brief overview of what Landex is and what it is we do. So Landex is a membership organisation of 39 colleges and universities in the United Kingdom. And we have quality improvement and quality enhancement at the heart of everything that we do, and sharing of best practice. So that sees the form of a range of peer review activities that take place nationally every year, and CPD to support our member colleges. But that sharing of best practices is at the heart of that. And one of our members that we're very proud of is Plumpton. So it'll be really good for you to see some of that best practice that Jeremy will be sharing with you this evening. So we've got about 15,000 hectares of farmed agricultural land in those 39 member colleges and universities. So that represents a huge resource nationally for us to be able to showcase best practice to young people and adults, but also I think I see it as also as a resource that we need to use in sharing best practice with the sector as well. So I think there's some potentially exciting work there coming up. And we also have 7,000 residential spaces as well, which is something that I'll come back to a bit later on in my presentation. Wiz, would you mind moving us on to the first slide? Thank you. Perfect. So this slide really is certainly not to bore you with national policy or a range of papers and changes that are currently happening, but safe to say, this is actually, after I wrote this, I thought of all the bits I've missed out, and this is really a fraction of the current reform change that we are currently seeing within the further and higher education system. And this is all around, obviously, a changing skills landscape, which is to obviously make sure that we are better readying young people for the skills of the future, which obviously is a positive thing, but it is quite an overwhelming environment. But we have to recognise that for an effective skills strategy for agriculture, this is just one side of the coin. And on the other side, we need to understand that we are serving a sector that is extremely diverse, has a range of SMEs and micro businesses with a range of skills need. And it's our job really to marry industry and providers really to make this work. And we're very aware that this is only one side of the coin, and that there are plenty of challenges within the agriculture sector itself that we need to be addressing. We're going backwards. Thanks, Wiz. If we go forward one as well, that'd be brilliant. Thank you. But okay, But ultimately, at this point, really the way that we see this is huge opportunity. So it's huge opportunity as a result of the reforms and the changes in qualifications that are taking place. It is somewhat of a blank slate, and it's an opportunity for us to come together with a wide variety of sectors to really influence and ensure that we have the highly skilled, resilient, diverse and sustainable workforce that we really need for agriculture and horticulture. Thank you. If we just move on again. So rather than concentrating on those rather large array of different reforms and changes that are taking place, there are two areas that I really wanted to concentrate on tonight, which I think would probably be of most interest to yourselves, and that is qualification reform, which is a complex picture, and we'll just have a bit of a discussion about what that looks like currently and what we think that's going to look like in the future. I say think because none of it is set in stone just yet. And then ultimately the part really that I think is the most important of all the skills reform that's taking place currently is the fact that we are really seeing the push for employer-led. So employer-led in every aspect of reform and change that's taking place within skills. And that really is the golden thread that runs all the way through from the providers on the ground in the classroom, right the way through to that strategic change that's taking place at a national level. Thanks, Wiz. So broadly, at level 3, so as you finish your GCSEs at school, and if you do want to, so you're moving on to your level 3 qualifications, you've broadly got 3 choices. So you've got A-levels, apprenticeships, and technical education. In addition, depending on the qualification range that you've got, you could choose to do a further level 2 qualification, which could be an apprenticeship or a technical qualification as well at that point. So at level 2, which is the GCSE equivalent, we are seeing reform, and that reform is not fully fleshed out or decided on yet. We haven't had the full decision from government in terms of the implementation on that. But broadly speaking, there will be 3 choices at level 2, as far as we can see. There will be a choice if you're going to go and do a T-level technical qualification, or you're going to go on to work, or you're going to go and you want to study further higher qualifications. So broadly, you'll be choosing an apprenticeship, higher qualifications, or employment, or the T-level. And at the moment, in the level 3 space, you will be aware of the agriculture, horticulture level 3 technical qualifications, those 1 or 2 year programs that learners will be studying full time within the college system. But those qualifications are due to be defunded in 2025. And the reason they're being defunded is because the new T-level will be put in place and will replace the level 3 technical programs that are currently there. And so at the moment, City and Guilds have been awarded the T-level program, and we are working closely with them, along with as broad a range of employers as we can possibly manage, in order to influence and shape that qualification. But that qualification, every aspect of that qualification has to be endorsed and validated by employers. So City and Guilds are consistently, desperate for more and more employers. And every year, all of the elements of that T-level will have to be validated annually by employers, which is probably looking at 80 new employers every year having to engage with the T-level qualification in order to make sure that it is fit for purpose. And then in addition to that, we have the higher technical qualifications where there's also reform and opportunity, I think, as far as we see it. So these are based on the apprenticeship standards. So the current standards that are in place at level 4 and 5. And I think there's opportunity there, as we'll discuss in a minute. Thanks, Wiz. So as I said, employer-led is at the heart of the reform, and that comes really, to be quite honest with you, as we've sort of been moving through this process, we've seen very clearly how one element really builds on another and on another. So as we're looking at the T-level space at the moment, and I think one area that I would particularly reference is we have some concerns around the livestock occupational specialism being completely separate from crop, and whereas many providers would have preferred sort of a mixed pathway there. When we actually look at the T-level and why it is as it is, actually the T-level is based on the apprenticeship standard, and the apprenticeship standard is then linked back to the occupational map. So it is absolutely crucial that we get the right elements on the occupational map to start with, that feeds through and pulls through to the right apprenticeship standards being developed, because we know that that will then influence the T-levels. So when we think about elements of the T-level that perhaps are not right first time, it actually all stems from the very beginning when we looked at the occupational map and reviewed that in 2019 with employers. So it's really, really crucial that we get the right information and the right breadth of discussion at each of these elements. Thanks, Wiz. So I thought it would be worth sort of discussing really how employers, how yourselves can actually influence the content and the types of qualifications that are available. So if we start at the very beginning, as I say, the first one really is the occupational map. And that was last reviewed in 2019. And I think there's going to be an opportunity when we speak to IFATE to really have another review of that sort of coming up shortly. So that will allow us to look at what we've got in terms of level 2 apprenticeship standards, what we've got at level 3, and then what we think we'd like to develop in that level 4 and 5 space to develop those knowledge, skills and behaviours that we need for young people. And I think one of the really important things here, and I'm just jumping ahead slightly, is around those knowledge, skills and behaviours, is actually we need to ensure that we're thinking not just about today or even yesterday in terms of the skills shortages and gaps, but we're really looking towards 2030 and beyond to really this knowledge, skills and behaviours we think we need in a sustainable, resilient workforce for the future to really meet the demands that we know that we have within the sector. So I think when we look at the occupational map, I think that's what we need to be thinking about. And I would, obviously encourage anybody to get involved with that review when it does come around. And then obviously we have the apprenticeship standards, which used to be the frameworks, which now are the standards that fall out of that. So the Trailblazer groups develop those apprenticeship standards, they develop the content of those. And at that point, and up until then, really providers are not involved as much. It's very, very much employer-led at this point. And then it comes to the endpoint assessment organisations and the providers really to interpret what has been written by the Trailblazer groups and ensure that it's deliverable within the settings. So obviously, again, any opportunity you have to be involved in those Trailblazer groups, any changes to the apprenticeship standards, any new standards that are desired to be created have to be validated by employers and have to be employer-led. So it has to come from the sector if we're going to sort of get any change there. And then, as I say, at level 3, those apprenticeship standards really inform what we have within our current T-levels. So the T-level that's being developed will be starting in September 2023 and will consist of what we call a common core. So a core content of really the knowledge and behaviours that you would want in young people as they start on day 1 at work. And these are very much around sort of business and broader skills and some theory in there around the specialist content as well. And then there is an occupational specialism. So we've got 7 occupational specialisms within the agriculture livestock management pathway. And it will be down to the student to choose the occupational specialism that they desire at that point. At the moment, the T-levels are just funded for young people and not for adults, but there are currently some trials going on at the moment for looking at occupational specialism being funded for adults as well. So that's a space that we're watching quite closely. And the next part is, obviously, we know that we've got sort of skills shortages potentially at level 4 and 5, and that's the area that we need to look at moving forward. And therefore, I think it's really important that we look at that higher technical space and what we could develop there for young people in the future, because obviously that is an option in addition to, you've got your apprenticeships, you've got your level 4, 5 higher technical qualifications, which you'd study within a college or university environment. And then obviously you have a full degree, which would be level 4, 5 and 6, so a 3-year program as well. So I think this presents a range of opportunities for us here. And as part of the reform that I showed you on that first page and the FE white paper and the skills for jobs paper, one of the key elements that was in there was the local skills improvement plans. So at a regional level, there will be a local skills improvement plan that will be developed, which will highlight what that regional authority believe are the skills priorities that should be invested in for that region. And we've got some challenges in terms of land-based for a number of reasons. The first being that because land-based colleges are serving a wider area than you might have from a local GFE, and because the distance that they travel and the network of transport that serves that is so much larger, quite often they could be serving and having to feed into a number of local skills improvement plans. So there needs to be some consistency there. But the second thing that's an issue is ensuring that there's an understanding that actually the land-based college network, with its fantastic resource in terms of residential beds and the actual sort of quality of resource that they utilise, is actually delivering to a national agenda. So they're not necessarily always just delivering regionally, they are delivering nationally as well. And if we want to ensure that skills and land-based education meet the demands of the agricultural bill and ensuring that we meet net zero, etc., we need to make sure that we are delivering on a national level. So as a result, I would say that one of the key things that we're really looking at the moment is ensuring we have another one of the other boxes that I thought afterwards I could have put in there is something called the Unit for Future Skills. So this is a sector that's been developed within the Department of Education, which is looking at the skills needs for the future. And they're looking at national skills priorities. And we need to ensure that agriculture is seen as a national skills priority to deliver on food security, sustainability, net zero, etc. And if we can get agriculture and horticulture as a national skills priority, as identified by that Unit for Future Skills, it is mandated that that has to be in every single local skills improvement plan. And that really is the golden ticket that we're certainly sort of driving for and looking for at the moment. Thanks, Wiz. So that's some ideas there of how, on a strategic level, this employer-led golden thread comes through. So you're delivering on the strategy for the future, what qualifications we're going to have in that area, and the content of those qualifications. But another really, really, really important part of this is actually the employer influence at provider and learner level, because that is having huge impacts at the moment. So from a provider's perspective, we see some fantastic industry placements, fantastic feedback from learners, fantastic evidence of collaboration with industry within the providers to really, really showcase outstanding practice in terms of the knowledge, skills and behaviours that are developed whilst on those placements. Obviously, opportunities to offer apprenticeships to young people as well, and opportunities to have co-designed and co-delivered curriculum. So this is the gold standard. This is what we're expecting in every single college up and down the country. And we are seeing really fantastic evidence of where the colleges really know their employers in their region, that those employers are being consulted on the content and design of the programs. And then the best practice is where actually those employers are coming in and co-delivering the curriculum as well. So there's some really, really good evidence of that happening within the sector as well. And the employer forums are really a fantastic opportunity to sort of get involved with your local college and really see what's going on and have your questions answered and put your ideas forward as well. So this co-designed and co-delivered curriculum and the employer forums are something that are feeding forward to the Ofsted new skills measure that's been put in place. So Ofsted already look at employers and have done very much historically, and the providers links with employers in terms of what we call the curriculum intent. So it is why you do what you do, and you have to show very clearly that you're working with employers to deliver an intent of a curriculum that is going to meet learners' needs for the future. But in addition to that, there is now a new skills measure, which is looking at ensuring that you are meeting the regional needs. And for that, the Ofsted are very much looking at garnering feedback from a wide range of employers. So I'm sure if you're working with Plumpton College in the event of an Ofsted, you will be tapped up for good feedback at that point. So, but it really is a very positive experience and a really good opportunity for Ofsted to hear about all the great work that's going on. So I have to say that within this area, land-based colleges are outperforming GFE. So if we look at the 39 member colleges that we have, they are 97% good or better in terms of their quality outcomes, which are directly impacted by these quality measures. And that is compared to 82% out within the GFE sector. So we have a fantastic, well-resourced product that is of a high quality, but we now need to really pull together to make sure that we're listening to the employer voice and that we have a product that is really going to meet the needs of the sector for the future. And I think that the final one that I mentioned there is around mentoring and dual professionals. We've got a real challenge to ensure that we have up-to-date industry professionals delivering on the programs as well. So if you are fancying having a bit of dual professionalism going on and trying your hand at some further or higher education teaching, Jeremy or any other college you're close to would be delighted to hear about it. And we really would encourage anybody to get involved in what can be a very, very rewarding career. Thanks, Liz. So we've got some challenges, and it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that, for instance, around the T levels that I discussed and engagement with employers in that sphere, it has been very challenging for City and Guilds. And that's because we are a sector that's made up of SMEs and micro businesses. Quite often individuals do not have the time to be able to give to 2 hours via Zoom or whatever in order to give their feedback about qualifications. And we recognise that, and I think that's a real challenge. But unless we get engagement from employers, engagement from providers isn't good enough. It needs to be from employers, as it should be, and that needs to drive it. But ultimately, if we don't get the breadth of employers there, then there won't be an increased awareness of the sector. So impact of engagement is that we need it to be representative of the breadth of land-based. So it's not as easy as if it's health and ultimately, or we can go for a few very large sector representatives and we can get that straight away in terms of the qualifications. We really do need to be engaging with a wide range of individuals in order to really mould these qualifications into what they need to be to meet sector need. So it's the impact of this is going to be the right qualifications and the right content. But I think, again, we recognise that in all of this, because you only ever actually engage a percentage of the sector, it will not be perfect for everyone first time. But We were really pleased to hear from the Institute for Apprenticeship and Technical Education, who are involved in developing the T-levels, that this will be reviewed on an annual basis. So there's review on the occupational standards to make sure that that's leading to the right apprenticeship standards. There's review of the T-levels. So there is always opportunity to feed in. And I think the most important thing for me in this is that actually, if we are looking to develop those right skills for 2030 and beyond, we need to have regular review, because we need to make sure that the content is consistently kept up to date and suitable. So I've already mentioned this one, but I think is absolutely key. We need agriculture to be recognised as a national priority area. I think it's absolutely crucial. And therefore agriculture consistently referenced on local skills improvement plans. Thanks, Wiz. So how will our progress be measured? Well, these are employer-led qualifications. As I say, the impact will be local skills improvement plans, making sure that agriculture, horticulture, and the wider land base is consistently seen on those local skills improvement plans. Colleges themselves are now having to create what we call accountability agreements. And these agreements are essentially pulling that information from the local skills improvement plan, pulling that information from a national picture, pulling that information from yourselves as employers, and explaining why they're doing what they're doing and how they're delivering to that regional need. And then Ofsted will coming in and looking at that. And as we say, in terms of our initial barometer temperature check, that's going extremely well in terms of the results from those member colleges. But ultimately, the things that we're really looking for is destination data. Where are those young people going? And are we seeing a reduction in the skill shortages and the production of this sustainable, highly skilled workforce for the future? Thanks, Wiz. Perfect. Over to Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Alex, and good evening, everyone. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to talk to you this evening, and obviously I'm really keen to share with you how Plumpton is responding to some of those opportunities that Alex has shared, and what complex landscape that is in terms of education and skills for providers, colleges up and down the country, but plenty of opportunity. And I'm just going to pick some examples of things that we're really focusing on here at Plumpton. Before that, I wanted to come back to the UK agriculture sector and just reflect on the context there, really. As you all know, British agriculture, global agriculture, has always been very heavily influenced by external factors, many of which, of course, are out of ours and yours day-to-day control. But when you look at the current context or landscape, it's probably fair to say that the sheer volume and complexity of those influencing factors is far greater than ever before, and feels like it's really come to a head in these last couple of years. I'm talking about global factors, of course, things that have been in play for a long time, like population increase and climate change. And then we add in the pandemic, we add in Brexit, we add in the war in Ukraine, and then we bring in those national influencing factors, a huge political changes and uncertainty and influence, that ever-changing and uncertain legislative and policy environment. All of this creating a perfect storm, creating risks, in some cases unprecedented challenges, but also undoubtedly opportunities too. Collectively, all of these influences and many more are driving and will continue to drive considerable change for our farming and wider agriculture sector. And change for any of us and for any business comes in all sorts of shapes and forms. In effect, I'm sure you recognize this, but change can either be done to people and not always with the best results, or change can be done with people That's about taking people, in this case, our agriculture industry, our farming community, on a journey. And at the heart of that journey is support for the industry, it's mentoring for the industry, it's upskilling, and it's education. And therefore, as I said, I'm really pleased to talk a bit more about what we at Plumpton are doing. We've just written a new strategic plan and are more committed than ever at the college to ensuring we are taking advantage of those opportunities that Alex has talked about and providing all those things: support, mentoring, upskilling, education to our rural and farming communities. If you boil that down a little bit more, I'll let you click through these next few points with. We're talking about our focus in 4 key areas. Firstly, it's all about ensuring we truly do understand, as Alex said, exactly what employers want, not just today, but looking into the future. Secondly, it's about ensuring we're utilising that intelligence, that feedback from employers to develop our curriculum. And again, I'll talk about all of these examples in a bit more detail in a second. Many of you know we are custodians of the land here ourselves at Plumpton. Alex said 15,000 hectares across land-based colleges nationally. 800 hectares of those are here in East Sussex at Plumpton. And therefore, it's critical that as farmers and landowners in our own right, we are, as educational providers too, demonstrating absolute best practice at the heart of our farming communities. And finally, fourthly, it's about ensuring we're providing opportunities to bring our communities together and support them on this journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these. Next slide, please, Wiz. And firstly, and arguably most importantly, and this really chimes with what Alex was talking about, at the heart of our strategic plan here at Plumpton, our plan for our future, is that commitment to ensuring that our curriculum isn't just about qualifications, that our curriculum is employer-led, that as a college, regardless of what subject, at what level, whether it's an apprenticeship, a full-time course, one of those new T-levels, that we are shaping it as much as we can during its development phase, but also whilst we're running it, to ensure that it's delivering exactly what our employers need. If I was a bit critical of Plumpton, and partly driven by the pandemic in the last few years, we've become a little bit too qualification-led. This priority for us is about saying, let's get back to the floor. Let's get those blank sheets of paper out and let's truly understand what our employers need. So next couple of points, please, Wiz. We've been piloting this approach with what I would describe as one of our cornerstone qualifications here at Plumpton, the Level 3 Agriculture course, a real bottom-up industry-led review, working initially in a consultation phase with a group of 6 to 8 farmers across East and West Sussex, and starting with a blank sheet of paper and taking some quality time to understand, when a student leaves Plumpton with a Level 3 ag, what knowledge do you need them to have? What skills do you need them to have? And what behaviour do you need them to have, or attributes? And we've done that. It's been a really rich exercise. We now mapped that back to the existing qualification, but it's left us with all this detail around the outside that we're now delivering in our implementation phase, in addition to that qualification. And currently we've got over, as it says there, over 20 local farmers from across East and West Sussex working with us to deliver this curriculum in such a way that hopefully ensures when our students leave us, they are leaving with exactly what industry needs. We don't know if it's working at the moment, and we won't know truly if it's working until those students leave Plumpton. But we are going to be doing some mid-year assessments and bringing all of these employers in to be part of that. And Alex has just talked about, we don't even know if the level 3 agriculture is going to exist in 3 years' time. But we're seizing the opportunity now and ensuring that the level 3 agriculture that we're delivering is meeting industry needs. And when our students studying agriculture come to us on a T level in agriculture over the next few years, it's about ensuring we're using this intelligence from our employers to inform that design and delivery of the curriculum. Next slide, please, Wiz. And just at a glance, this is the sort of stuff this work with employers is identifying. These are some examples of some of the practical skills that our farmers in East and West Sussex have identified and said, we need students, you know, with these skills, with these attributes. No surprise to see all aspects of machinery, elements of estate maintenance, health and safety, a really interesting theme that's coming across from all of our conversations with employers at the moment is that digital literacy, understanding of management systems. And perhaps the one area of this that was of least surprise to me is about those competency qualifications. They've always been important. They'll always be important to ensure that our students are employable, and therefore we're making a big commitment currently to ensuring that students are picking those up over their 3 years and not least before their middle year. So if you want to get involved in this really important piece of work that we're doing, whether that's helping to inform content and design or being part of that delivery, offering talks, offering your farm, coming in and running sessions, providing assessments, real life assessments for our students, or just being part of that assessment to see if this is working, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. So next slide, please, Wiz. How else are we at Plumpton responding to this skills gap? This is so important for me, demonstrating best practice. And for quite some time now, that's been at the heart of our focus here at the college. Many of you know about our farm. As I said, we're an 800-hectare farm, 6 different soil types, multiple habitats, and therefore a wonderfully rich learning environment. Also rich in terms of that mix of enterprises, again, that most of you will be familiar with, and some, you know, some interesting challenges in there. Triple SIs, ancient woodlands, fairly mixed arable from, you know, the top of the downs all the way through to the Weald. On the whole, when it comes to demonstrating best practice on our farm, we've made some real progress over the last 5 years, particularly in terms of practice, productivity, and profitability. But we wanted to do more. And again, many of you will know that we've invested significantly in the farm in the last year. That includes our new high welfare pig unit, the fact that half of our dairy herd are now being milked by Lely A5 astronauts. And so really both of those investments in terms of livestock enterprise are about embracing those opportunities when it comes to adopting new technology and using those to integrate with existing systems, driving standards of production, driving standards of welfare and husbandry. And that third point is all about trying to set an industry standard that I don't think exists. And that's the establishment of a biosecurity centre. I know of one other of these in the country when it comes to educational establishments. So massive multi-million-pound investment on our farm has to be at the heart of us demonstrating future best practice, and not perfect practice, but just examples of how things can be done moving forwards. And talking of moving forwards, it's not all about having shiny facilities, of course. We're working really hard on how we use those resources, and particularly our wider college estate, as holistically as possible in our new farm strategy, whether that's sustainability, productivity, building on the work we've done as a leaf mark farm in recent years, bringing together that investment in technology, those practices, those techniques that are going to benefit our soil, our land, our biodiversity, our carbon storage into our new farm strategy. I don't believe there's one way of doing this, and I don't believe there's a perfect way of doing this. We're going to try and demonstrate a way of doing this in our new farm strategy, and I look forward to consulting with some of you and others early in the new year on that before we launch it for the college. Finally, for me, next one was, it's all about opening up our doors here at Plumpton. As I said, recognizing, and I'll let you click through all of these where I say bring them all up. Recognizing, thank you, that we haven't got all of the answers. But in the current times, with all this change and all this uncertainty, at Plumpton, we feel we can be leaders in some areas, followers in others, but facilitators in most. And that's why at the heart of our investment has been actually a physical space, our hub, our agri-food centre, providing a place-based solution for all of us. This is not just about the skills we're equipping our and your new entrants into the industry with. This is about bringing together all of us, farmers, landowners, and the rural community, to adopt those collaborative approaches and provide those practical solutions, those training opportunities, be they flexible, be they informal, be they accredited, be they college-based, online, apprenticeships in the workplace, or be they at those higher technical levels, levels 4 and 5, that Alex was referring to. It's about providing more opportunities to come together and work collaboratively than ever before. And there are some examples there. Watch this space, a Future of Farming conference or events will be running here in April 23 with the backing of CLA and Virgin. We're already in talks about some really exciting Sussex-wide technical workshops, providing again that support, that training, that knowledge exchange. And we've just announced a brand new university partnership with Greenwich here at Plumpton. This is all about providing you with the opportunities to maximize those opportunities that these current challenges provide. Finally, for me, through whichever lens you look, sustainability, productivity, or profitability, the future of UK agriculture, in my mind, does and can look bright, but skills and knowledge are absolutely at the heart of ensuring that we deliver that, be that new entrants or our existing workforce. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Alex, and thank you, Jeremy, for your presentations there. It was really interesting. Certainly, I hadn't realised, I think, first of all, quite how much work is going in behind the scenes into formulating these curriculums. and also obviously how much work is actually going on the ground to deliver them. So thank you both very much for your contributions there. Now we shall move on to some questions. I certainly have got one quickly to start off with. I think aimed at both of you, though. We're in a period of immense change, and it almost feels like one day to the next throws a new challenge at us, which must be incredibly challenging for you guys trying to then deliver a curriculum. Do colleges feel that they have enough flexibility within the curriculum to keep up with these changes? And if so, how are you managing it?
Do you want to go first, Alex, or shall I?
Yeah, I think one interesting thing to say, which is going to be sort of different from, I'm sure, Jeremy's take on this, is, and I think this is something that we do need to reinforce, is colleges deliver qualifications ultimately that are funded. So nobody can do it free of charge or for love. So they have to be qualifications that are recognised, have whether it's UCAS points attached to it, but are certainly recognised by the DFE. So those qualifications are what we're talking about developing currently. So as a result of those qualifications, there is flex on the edges, which is what Jeremy will be able to talk about, and there is the review that's constantly taking place as well. I think one thing that we need to be really mindful of here is that because the sector is so broad and because the skills need is so broad, we need to ensure that for the young people of tomorrow, we are developing a broad range of skills that equip them for 10, 15 years in the future. Because unless a farmer or a grower can come to a college and say that they're going to design a qualification that's going to give somebody a job for life, we need to be ensuring that actually we're equipping them for their future life and for their future skills. And I think that's a really, really important part. Jeremy, over to you.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, Chris, a really good question. And I'd like to think that that's come from mine and yours conversations in the past, not to discredit you at all. And it's absolutely at the heart of getting this right, isn't it? It really is. I think what I've hopefully demonstrated, and from what Alex has talked about as well, is that for 16 to 18-year-olds, effectively, I think there is now enough flexibility. And I think that drive for us to be employer-led is incentivizing us to be more flexible, so that it's not just about that qualification. I think I would argue that at the moment we haven't got enough flexibility when it comes to what we do with adults or employers. In other words, those already in the industry. We're delivering more apprenticeships at Plumpton than ever, and we're delivering more work with employers, so legislative training, than ever. But our funding for adults and the way the qualifications are structured doesn't quite at the moment enable us to say there's a group of farmers here, or there's a group of landowners here, let's go away and write a qualification or a block of training that perfectly meets your needs. So I think that's slightly led by the funding for adults, and I think there's reform on the way there that will give us some flexibility, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years. And then just quickly, I think accessibility is also about having training options that people can access whilst they're in the workplace. And I think, online learning has a role to play, and modularized learning has a role to play. Just quickly, a quick stat, there are still lots of people in the Southeast who are not trained beyond level 2. And as an agriculture industry in this country, there's a significant proportions that aren't trained beyond level 3. All the employer need, all the intelligence Alex was referring to earlier, is for people to be trained at levels 4 and 5. So that's why we're developing degree courses. But if you're in the industry, you haven't got the time to give up 2 or 3 days a week to study a degree. So that we need to find ways to be able to offer them on a modular, bite-sized basis.
Thank you very much. Sue, you have your hand up. You'd like to go next.
Thank you very much, Chris. And thank you both for the presentations. They were really interesting. Can I pick up a point which is partly to do with flexibility. Jeremy put up the curriculum for level 3, and it clearly showed that both crop and livestock were covered in there. But something Alex said was a little concerning in that those pathways were diverging. I wonder, Alex, if you could talk a bit more about any concern there.
Yes, so this relates to the T level. So currently, Jeremy's absolutely right, within your level 3 technical qualification, the 2-year qualification, they are both there. But because crop and livestock are separate apprenticeship standards, and because the T level is derived from those apprenticeship standards, they're essentially separate. And that's the situation. So what we've done is we've worked really, really closely with industry. And I'm saying we, actually, I'm just saying we're one of the many, many cogs that are in the bigger picture, as it were. It's certainly not down to us, but through providers' feedback and employers' feedback to make sure that the core has elements of crop and livestock in it. So if you choose to do either, you will be exposed to both. But we would like to see longer term more of that coming through. And I think due to this review process, and I think we've recently had a conference, and we're talking about regenerative agriculture, and actually how it's really, really important that mixed approach is seen within young people moving forward. I think there's going to be lots of evidence that we can influence that moving forward. So currently, yes, they will do a core that has a mixture of both, but then they will specialise into either livestock or crop. But they certainly will have core elements covered in both.
Thank you very much, Alex. It does seem rather artificial to separate these two things when we're talking about generic skills, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Sharan next, please.
Hi, I'm Sharan.
Oh,
And
apologies. Apologies, the audio is not fantastic.
Yes, so there might be a couple of issues with the connection. That's why I resolved.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you there. The audio is not brilliant, but if you're able to write your question on the chat.
Yes. So I'm working on a social platform that is like people to divert their bio-waste from waste to earn revenue on the side.
Sorry, Sharan, I have to interrupt you there. I'm afraid I'm not sure if Jeremy or Alex are getting that, but we're not getting huge amounts of sound on our end. But perhaps if you're able to pop your question into the chat, then that would be fantastic. Just quickly, have we any more questions, please? Whilst we hopefully get a question from Sharan, I certainly have one more. Sue's got her hand up again. Go for it, Sue.
Sorry, I don't want to monopolise things, but I had a quite different question. When Jeremy, thank you for talking about collaboration, which all sounded really exciting, and I was seeing a bit of deja vu because sitting in the South of England Agricultural Society discussions, particularly around the Board of Trustees, I'm hearing exactly the same things. And I wondered how you felt the Agricultural Society could play a big part. I know you are involved in the society, but how can we play a constructive part in that essential regional collaboration?
Yes, a great question, Sue. And I have had conversations with other like-minded groups, and I think I'm keen, and I know they are as well, keen to come together as we are planning early in the new year to look at what a pan-Sussex approach would look like. And I think the Agricultural Society and the education group are at the heart of that, really. There's an argument, isn't there, that it's a drip feed that the industry need, I think, and a drip feed of as I said in my final slide there, those practical farmer-led solutions, you know, people having their hands held to be shown the way. Whereas a lot of the things that I've accessed in the last year in terms of this change agenda are just telling people what the way is. And so, you know, that collaboration has to be farmer-led. It has to be about practical solutions. And I do think that the right people in Sussex are primed, ready to come together. And I'd like to think that includes Agricultural Society.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Paul next, please. Oh, you're muted, Paul.
Yeah, classic. Thank you. I was interested to hear Jeremy say that he's delivering more apprenticeships than ever in agriculture at the moment. I was wondering, is there anything that Plumpton have done to match learners to employers within the local area differently to in the past, or has it been a driver from a bulge in that age range of students that have prompted good numbers? I'm just interested to see what's boosted the numbers at Plumpton.
Yeah, hi Paul, nice to see you. It's a really good question, and I think if I had to sum up what's had the impact so far, I think it's just putting more people on the road out talking to employers. So you know, we've invested heavily in a central business team here that sits separately to our teaching teams. You know, part of that drive for ever better standards has been you know, what happens in the classroom and in the field and on the dairy, and therefore you can't ask those people who are busy honing the art of teaching or honing the art of farming to also be the ones that are out there understanding employers' needs. So we've witnessed a quadrupling of apprenticeship numbers at Plumpton, not all in agriculture, of course, in the last 5 years. And I would put that down to having a discrete team that's out there talking to employers. A lot of those new apprentices are adults, you know, and there's a myth amongst most of society, really, that an apprentice is a 16-year-old on a youth training scheme. Some of the best apprentices are 16-year-olds on a youth training scheme, but anyone can do an apprenticeship. And so I think that has proven a successful way of upskilling the existing workforce and attracting adults. In terms of where we go from here, we have identified that one of the biggest barriers to an employer, a farmer, or a viticulturalist or a landscape gardener taking on an apprentice is finding the right person. And when you've got that dynamic, and when you don't get that right, it has a real impact on the employer and the apprentice. So we have just, thank you, Paul, invested in a candidate matching service, we call them. And an important part of our central team is someone who is effectively building a talent bank of people who are interested in training as an apprentice. And the bigger we can build that, the more we can start matching them to employers. And in fact, what we'd like to get to is be able to approach an employer and say, not only are you interested in taking on an apprentice, but we have a candidate who'd be great for your business in your local area. Now let's talk about apprenticeships. Thank you for the question.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Right, we're getting fairly close to time. However, I can see that Tom's got his hand up and we can probably squeeze in one more question, I think, if that's all right. So, Tom, go for it.
Oh, yeah. Evening. Question for Jeremy, really. Can you find the staff to deliver this to the technical levels that you need? I know there's looking at co-curricular delivery, but finding good staff has got to be crucial for you and motivating the students, because you might have 10% who are cracking, 80% who are middling, and 10% who are disruptive. And is that quite hard work for the college to manage, or how's that going to go? How's that going to work? Sorry, horrible question.
No, I think Alex touched on this, and I didn't. So I'm pleased you've asked it, Tom. And again, I know it's something that Chris and has a particular way of approaching in terms of your business, Chris. I'll let you come in after me. It is probably, apart from the perception issues that I think our sector, our wonderful sector faces, I think it's probably the biggest challenge facing Plumpton, and I'm sure Alex would say other colleges up and down the country, is recruiting staff who are the right role models, because there's something about attributes and behaviours there, who have the right technical skills, Tom, your point, and who aren't necessarily trained teachers. I recruit very few trained teachers, but who are able to be developed into trained teachers. It's three things. And in some respects, it's quite rare to find someone with all three, and particularly rare to find someone with all three when it's a tough gig teaching. It's a tough gig teaching, as you yourself have alluded to. And there's an argument at the moment that says you can earn more farming than you can teaching. But it's a hugely rewarding environment. You know, the benefits of being in this sector, education and farming, is you get to do both. And you truly are, as I like to call it, changing people's lives. Agriculture is the industry, or one of the industries, that we find it most difficult to recruit those people in. And that's why Alex's point about dual professionals is really important. Can we entice Tom Gribble away from his farm for a day a week, and Chris Appleton away from his farm for a day a week, so that you can come and do some teaching as well? That's really where we need to get to, so that you're adding all that real life technical intelligence on top of what our students are getting in the classroom. It's tough, but I think it's about those relationships.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Can I, Chris, if you can give me for 2 minutes, please?
Yeah, all right, that'll be our last question, as we're slightly over time.
Okay. I don't have a question. I'm sorry. I was listening, Alex, and then Jeremy, the wonderful presentations. I may be new to you all. I live in India, actually. So I belong to the northern part of the India, and I'm in UK for the last 3 months. I'm here for some particular research visit with some of the universities like Oxford University, University of Cambridge, and Liverpool, one university in the Liverpool. So I just attended and was also looking onto the website of this society. So I just want to know how best we can collaborate with the India, with my part of the, agriculture, since we are having a great diversity of agriculture in India. In terms of the cereals, we grow a number of crops there. So how best we can collaborate, or is there any sort of link that we can strengthen to exchange the knowledge or events, whatever it is? So I just want to know how best we can collaborate each other.
Yeah.
Go on, Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I mean, I think it's an interesting one. I was actually having a meeting not so long ago with a group that were wanting sort of similar collaboration from within Afghanistan as well, and also I think there's real opportunity to share best practice across the country, and increasing diversity within land-based education in the United Kingdom is something that we're really, really keen on as well. So I think there's a real opportunity to do that. At the moment, I think a lot of that has really arisen as a result of the pandemic, ironically, and the increase in online resources that we have available to us, and potentially sort of sharing of best practice via those online resources. Obviously, land-based colleges are extremely keen to sort of, share best practice as well, face-to-face too. But I think certainly in terms of online platforms, I think there's a huge amount of opportunity there as well. Jeremy, did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head, Alex. I think there's all sorts of opportunities that have opened up. Equally, I think for most of us, through our university partnerships, there's opportunities to get involved in KTPs and knowledge exchange and those sorts of things. But if you want to just reach out directly, you can either find me on LinkedIn or find me through Plumpton. and I'd be happy to have a conversation outside about possible collaboration.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Well, I think 5 minutes over time, my apologies. It's probably about time we wrap things up. So thank you ever so much to everybody for taking the time out to join us this evening. I've certainly found it really interesting, and I hope that you all have as well. I also must just say thanks again to thanks to our sponsors, Fram Farmers, and of course, thank you so much to Jeremy and Alex for just giving us such an interesting insight. Yeah, I personally found it really fascinating. And I think finally, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody. We'll see you all in the new year. Take care.
Lovely to see you all. Take care. Bye.